In a world teetering on the edge of systemic change, the idea of the United States revaluing its gold reserves to $40,000 an ounce might seem like financial science fiction. But as the global order fractures under the weight of these geopolitical tensions, economic fragility, and the rise of multipolarity, well, this once outlandish notion is gaining traction. The question is no longer if such a move could happen, but what it might mean, and what it would mean for the future of money, power, and sovereignty. From the Federal Reserve's quiet publication of what is practically a gold monetization manual to the BRICS nations' challenge to the dollar's dominance, the threads of financial and geopolitical instability are converging. And at the center of it all lies gold. That ancient, immutable store of value that central bankers, governments, and savvy investors are quietly hoarding as the ultimate hedge against chaos. The United States has long relied on the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency to maintain its economic and geopolitical dominance. But as Simon Hunt, a recent guest on this very channel, explained, this dominance is under siege. The BRICS nations are not only expanding their economic influence, but they are also actively working to de-dollarize global trade. Washington, Hunt argues, has recognized this existential threat posed by this bloc, and its response, a mix of economic, political, and military strategies aimed at disrupting the BRICS alliance. Iran, a key player here, has become a focal point of U.S. and Israeli efforts to destabilize the bloc. Yet these efforts appear to be backfiring. Iran's resilience, bolstered by support from Russia and China, has only strengthened its position, uniting its population and military leadership in defiance of external pressures. Meanwhile, the BRICS nations are laying the groundwork for a new financial order. Russia's Sphinx exchange is preparing to price gold based on local demand and supply, bypassing the London good delivery system. China continues to quietly add to its gold reserves while the BRICS explore gold-backed trade mechanisms. These moves are not just about hedging against sanctions. They are about building a post-dollar financial world. However, as one follower D34G45 raised an insightful point that reframes the narrative, the real issue may not be the BRICS threatening the petrodollar system. Instead, the problem lies within the United States itself. Because for decades, the U.S. has been deindustrialized, with real production shifting to China and other nations. And this has left the U.S. vulnerable in a potential future conflict where industrial capacity and self-reliance could prove critical. The U.S. has woken up to this reality and is now attempting to bring back production capacity back home. But here's the catch. To make U.S. manufacturing competitive on the global stage, the dollar must be devalued. The current strength of the dollar, bolstered by its status as a global reserve currency, has made U.S. manufacturing uncompetitive for the last 30 or so years. A strong dollar chokes domestic production, and the U.S. is now seeking to reverse this trend. This is where the contradiction lies. The U.S. wants to maintain the dollar's status as the global reserve currency while simultaneously devaluing it to revive domestic manufacturing. These goals are inherently at odds. Tariffs, trade wars, and other protectionist measures are all part of this strategy to reshuffle the cards. Now, interestingly, the BRICS nations are not the ones driving the shift. China, in particular, is thriving under the current system. As the follower pointed out, China would be happy to keep things as they are because it is winning in this arrangement. The U.S., on the other hand, is the one disrupting the status quo. They are creating instability in its own petrodollar system to address those challenges of deindustrialization. Now, against this backdrop, the idea of the U.S. revaluing its gold reserves takes on new significance. In May this year, the Federal Reserve published a 202-page financial accounting manual, which included detailed instructions on how to monetize gold certificates. This was not a theoretical exercise. It's a procedural manual or a how-to guide for a policy that someone somewhere is preparing to implement. So here's how it would work. The Treasury issues a certificate for its gold holdings, 260 million ounces, and the Federal Reserve credits dollars into the Treasury general account in return. At the current book value of $422 per ounce, this gold is worth about $11 billion. But if we value to $40,000 per ounce, it would be worth $10 trillion. enough to inject massive liquidity into the system without adding to the national debt. Now, as I've explained before, this is not unprecedented. In 1934, President Roosevelt revalued gold from $20.67 to $35 per ounce to facilitate money creation and shore up the economy during the Great Depression. This move allowed the government to expand the money supply without issuing new debt, a strategy that could be replicated today. However, the stakes are much higher now. The U.S. national debt has ballooned to $37 trillion, and the debt to GDP ratio is at unsustainable levels. Revaluing gold might provide a short-term fiscal lifeline, but it would also unleash a wave of inflation. And there is what has been termed as an inflation lag between currency injection and price rises, typically ranging from between 6 to 29 months. Now, during this window, gold holders might feel euphoric as their assets skyrocket in value. But this is the trap. The real danger lies in the temptation to sell. Those who cash in their gold for dollars during the inflation lag will find themselves holding a rapidly devaluing currency, and by the time the inflationary wave hits, their purchasing power could be decimated. So is this part of the plan? Are we to expect, as Andrew Secchi believes, the great taking before the great reset? This is where authorities will convince the public to sell their gold, consolidate physical metal in central banks, and then unleash the inflation. Those without gold are financially eviscerated. Those who sold it for fiat, they are just as ruined. And those who held on, they hold the only asset with intrinsic eternal value. The potential revaluation of gold is not occurring in a vacuum. It is deeply intertwined with the broader geopolitical and economic crises unfolding around the world. Simon Hunt predicts that the U.S. and Israel will launch a renewed attack on Iran before the end of the year, escalating tensions in the Middle East. Meanwhile, the war in Ukraine, well, that continues to grind on, with Russia seeking full control of the country as a buffer against NATO. These conflicts are not just about territory or ideology. They are about control of resources, control of trade routes, and the global financial system. The U.S. sees the BRICS nations, particularly Russia and China, as existential threats to its unipolar dominance. But the BRICS, they are playing the long game, using gold and other tools to build a multipolar world. To understand the potential implication of $40,000 of gold revaluation, it's worth revisiting the historical role of gold in the global financial system. For centuries, gold served as the foundation of monetary stability. The gold standard, while imperfect, provided a check on government spending and currency devaluation. The abandonment of the gold standard in 1971, well, that marked the beginning of the fiat currency era, where money is backed not by tangible assets, but by trusting governments and central banks and their promises. Over the past 5 decades, this system, as we all know, has enabled unprecedented levels of debt and monetary expansion. But it has also created vulnerabilities, as evidenced by the 2008 financial crisis and the current wave of inflation. Revaluing gold would be a tacit admission that the fiat experiment has reached its limits. It would restore a measure of discipline to the financial system, but it would also mark the end of an era for individuals and investors. The implications are clear. The global financial system is heading towards a reset, and gold will play a central role. Hunt advises against long-term investment in this volatile environment, and instead he recommends holding physical gold as monetary insurance and securing access to essential resources like food. The latter point particularly urgent. Climate change and geopolitical disruptions are threatening global food supplies. The U.S. Midwest, a critical source of food, could face severe droughts reminiscent of the Dust Bowl of the 1930s. And in such a scenario, self-sufficiency in food production could become as important as financial security. Looking ahead, Simon Hunt envisions a world that must first endure a major crisis before achieving stability. The battle between a unipolar world led by the U.S. and a multipolar order championed by the BRICS will likely accumulate in a war, possibly around 2028. The outcome of this conflict will determine whether the global economy transitions to a more sustainable model driven by equity rather than debt. And until then, the path will be fraught with danger. Geopolitical tensions, financial instability, and resource scarcity will test the resilience of nations and individuals alike. For those paying attention, the signs are clear. The old order is crumbling, and a new one is struggling to be born. In this environment, gold is more than a financial asset. It is that symbol of enduring value in a world of uncertainty. Whether the U.S. revalues its gold reserves or not, the metal's role as a store of wealth and hedge against chaos is only set to grow. The worst move for any gold holder, selling it, because gold isn't merely an investment. It is sovereignty in a system designed to strip you of exactly that. And if you're wondering how you can prepare for this new global order that's coming, then I suggest you head for the exit, or the exit plan as it was.